Insignificant, not a single flame, each tiny spark awakening. I will come with my heart full of flowers, with a lamp to relight your darkest hours, 'cause our roots are entwined, and the pain you feel is mine, because our roots are entwined, and your joy too is mine. Love conquers all. Hope cannot be lost, only found, because love conquers all. Lift your fragrant petal crowns. I will come with my heart full of flowers, with a lamp to relight your darkest hours. I will come with my heart full of flowers, with a lamp to relight your darkest hours.
I invite you to imagine that you are a co-creator with the universe. You actually are. But let's imagine it in a fresh way. What does it feel like in your body? You might want to stand up with me as we allow ourselves to come into our bodies, come into presence, and just to breathe and arrive as we activate a state change, a chemistry shift of being a co-creator with the universe. You might want to spread out your arms, you might want to stretch, you might want to wiggle your hips around. What does your body feel like doing when you imagine yourself as a co-creator with everything that is? Notice if you don't want to move at all, if you just feel quiet and still, notice the energy that's moving in your body as you just allow yourself to land in this experience of imagining being a co-creator. What does it feel like to ask your body to come into direct relationship with co-creation? Every spiritual tradition in the world has scriptures and stories and evidences of the reality of who you are as a co-creator. It doesn't take anything away from the creator as a whole, as a big pa creator. It doesn't take anything away from the deities or avatars or gurus that you work with. They still all affirm you are a co-creator. Reimagine it with me. And starting today, starting right now, Explore what it's like to just inhabit this feeling. And it's easier if you include your body. It's not just a mental construct, it's a feeling. Any form of manifestation teachings includes the idea of feeling. So go ahead and take a little risk. Nobody's watching you. Everyone's watching me. So who cares what you're doing, where you are? And just stretch out. Expand. Allow your wings to expand and maybe fly them a little bit. And part of what we're doing, just so you know, is we're changing state. We're also asking you to risk just a little bit, although I don't know why this is that risky, but people resist. Why not flap your wings? Why not move yourself around a little bit and get the feeling of co-creatorship and co-creation? When we activate feeling, it's one of the key teachings of manifestation, but they're missing several other steps that we're going to actually reveal today to you. So welcome. Let's just land into this moment together now. We're all here, and I am so excited to be with you. I could barely sleep last night. You have been invited to reimagine manifestation. You have been invited to a class which is more like a ritual or an experience in bringing a vision to life. And I am Curate Shiloh Sophia. I am the absolute champion for you creating what matters for you and to you. And I am in a cycle of teachings being offered to our community, both complimentary in education like this, as well as in our year-long course, Abracadabra, because what I see is that we need to get better at creating what matters to us. What I see is that we need to exit the extractive culture and enter into a generative culture. What I see is that we're in a cycle of time where women and families need to be really powerful in the choices that we make for how we spend our time and how we spend our resources. And there's a big attention grab to hook you right now into other narratives. We are inviting you to stay centered in your own narrative about who you are and what your experience is and what it is that you are creating in your life. We will not be spiritually bypassing. We will not be gaslighting your parts and acting like it all should have gone better for you already. And if it's not going well, you did something wrong. We're not going to be doing that. We could teach volumes on what is wrong with the current toxic narrative about how things get created. And first of all, they're missing some essential pieces. And so the fact that it hasn't worked for you isn't actually a mystery. Pieces are missing. And I'm going to make a bold claim that here at Musea, we have one of the missing pieces, and we've been cultivating it. I've been cultivating it for 30 years since my teacher passed it to me, and then from the 1930s when her teacher passed it to you, and I'm going to actually pass it to you today. And then those of you who choose are going to study it with us throughout the rest of the year. In order for us to literally harness the power of our time together, you're going to need to practice some intentional creativity, which means you're going to need a pen and a paper. And I'm going to tell you what we're going to cover today, and then we're going to let go of left brain and just dive in. So we just want to relax our nervous system and be like, okay, we're here. We're releasing toxic manifestation. We've already started, and that's where you blame yourself for every bad thing that ever happened to you. It doesn't matter if you hurt your toe walking quickly and, oh, I must have been going too fast. The universe wants me to slow down. That's a small version of the story, but it's actually punishing. Oh my gosh, I had this illness or this divorce or this tragedy. I must have agreed to it. My soul must have signed a contract in some other existence. I'm working out my karma. That's a punishment and reward structure that keeps us submitting to current paradigms of you being to blame for everything. Meanwhile, there's a lot of other forces happening that make it challenging for you to create what it is that you are here to create. So we're releasing that. And in order to release manifestation, we actually need to rewire our brains and our bodies for co-creation. We already began with that, which is simply to ask yourself, ask your entire system to participate with you in a state change, which takes responsibility for that you are co-creating. You are all the time. You just aren't always acting like it, and then you're reassigning meanings to how it works that don't actually work for you. So if you created all your harm, but you actually can't create all your good or heal everything that's broken, then it actually is a cancel of a no power. And then we feel powerless and ashamed. We are letting go of that, but we need to rewire brain and body. We are moving into resistance of the gaslighting programming so that you're aware the next time you get sold to from a pain point, which is happening a lot right now, your suffering is being sold to, and you're going to begin resisting that at a new level right now. I'll never forget my mom, Karen McLeod, who signed up for all these mailing lists in our community, and she's like, honey, I just don't understand why your friend wrote to me and said, Karen, are you tired and depressed and in need of a solution? She's like, that is so insulting of my identity. Who are they to assume I'm tired, depressed? Like, when did that become acceptable to speak to me that way? I signed up on this list to learn about this person's gifts, and I remember sitting with her and we talked about that pain point and how it isn't necessary to sell to pain for intelligent, conscious people. We're not going to go for it, but we need to do some reprogramming because we are in pain and we get sucked in on pain and the solutions that are going to happen with these things if you'll just do that. I will not be doing that with you. I will not be inviting you into pain in order to point to possibility. So we're letting go of that programming. It actually doesn't take that long because as soon as you're onto it, and you've started to already be onto it with the way that you're being sold to right now. And then you are going to enter a space of creating something that matters to you. We want to create an actual breakthrough today. The conditions for the breakthrough that we're going to be working with is you're going to pick one vision that you're going to work with starting right now for our time together. And what I would like is for it to be something achievable in this 1 hour. So that rules out some things, right? You may not be able to do a long version change. We are looking for something that you are ready and willing to adjust now that's actually possible. So what are some examples of things you could choose? You probably already know, it's why you signed up, but you could choose something that you've been having a really hard time making a decision around, that you just feel confused, and you could move from confusion to curiosity. You could look at a relationship that you haven't been able to repair, and we could create a solution while we're together so that you could actually repair that. And I want to say that we can even repair with people who are no longer on the planet in an embodied form. You're going to choose a situation where you're going to reorient yourself. Maybe you've been feeling ashamed of an illness or a financial situation or something that you haven't been able to figure out how to solve, and we could shift that orientation to the shame simply by what we're doing here, which is to say you are not actually responsible for every bad thing that happened to you. I'm going to tell you why. So those are the kinds of things. So things that can shift in an hour are generally things that you've already been working with, that you could see an achievable result with in this time frame. And then you're going to be watching for synchronicities over the next 7 days. You're actually going to be watching for alignment and how the universe may respond to you with the answer or the symbol in some form. I'm really excited today to have two new staff members on the team here, Fred and Anita. And they're part of a manifestation story because we were needing to call in some new team members and I wanted them to be local. And when they came in, they brought a gift with them. And the gift is this amazing rosary that they brought to me as a gift. And it's from Near Lords, which is one of the Madonnas that I love. When they brought this to me, it's the evidence of the synchronicity of the request coming true. I've been calling them in for months and months and months, so it wasn't as fast as I wanted, but here they are in the studio. So you're actually inside of an experience of a prayer that needed to happen and then was responding with a familiar symbol in my tradition and in their tradition. So once you make the request of the state change that you're working with today, you're going to be looking for the universe to provide things to you that are synchronicities and evidences. And you could say, well, did the universe actually show that? Or is it just happenstance? Well, no, actually, it's sometimes extremely real. Sometimes people will come and they will identify themselves to you. I've had 2 people in the last year, after making a huge prayer to Ma, and these people who came into my life said to me, Mary sent me. I'm like, huh? They're like, didn't you ask? And I said, yeah. And they said, she sent you a whole person, 2 whole people now, 4 whole people, and they identify themselves. Is the universe, is it divine grace? Is it synchronicity? Is it a field condition? It's all of those things. But when we don't know how to be with what's possible, when we haven't been orienting ourselves to the possibilities, if we're not preparing our body, our mind, and our spirit, then we don't even notice all the things that are moving all around us all the time, because we're not actually cued to listen and look for these possibilities. So part of the work of the brain rewiring is putting ourselves into a state of ripe potential. This is different than stress-induced hypervigilance, which is the way most intuitives are watching what's happening in their lives. We're stressed, we're hypervigilant, we're concerned, we're picking up on energies that are not ours, and we're clogging the flow. We need to move from hypervigilant stress into ripe possibility, and that changes the chemistry in your body, and that also changes the way that the brain and heart connection are able to serve you results. So what is the vision that you're choosing today to bring forward? Something achievable. And what we're going to do is we're going to go directly into a drawing process to help you refine the language. So we are going to do something that we call metacognitive drawing. So you're going to need a paper and a pen, and I'm going to get my big, beautiful whiteboard. There's something already on there. Yeah, I just did a class the other day, and I illustrated this drawing, which was my breakthrough drawing in my 20s of my relationship with Ma. So there she is again. Okay, so what does metacognition mean? Sometimes people come into my life and I'm like, you have to learn a whole new vocabulary when I'm hanging out with you. And what I'll say about that is, it's okay to not understand some of the things I'm talking about, because what's happening is your brain is stretching for the answer, which actually your brain loves to move into the future. And when you don't fully understand all the concepts, you're reaching. So metacognition, what do you think it means? And just see if you can get an answer for yourself. Meta and cognition. And just you notice what comes up, because we're here to teach critical thinking and stretch into concepts. Metacognition in general means thinking about thinking. Metacognition, thinking about thinking. And it's like really easy examples are writing a book about writing a book, making a movie about making a movie, right? There's a way that this meta is about the about as the about. But what we're doing is metacognitive drawing. And it's important to hear the vocabulary so that you can revisit it. So metacognitive drawing is thinking about thinking while moving a pen. And we use it all the time to engage with flow. And when we engage with flow, we bypass the dominatrix of the prefrontal cortex. We go into the right brain, left brain connection and collaboration with the heart and the hands. So when you have a pen in your hand and you're thinking about something, you are engaging right brain, left brain, heart, and hands. It's all happening at once. And what that does is it allows for your chemistry to create a state change, which allows for the subconscious to give you information that's sort of adjacent. It's to the side. You don't look directly at it. It comes through inspiration and insight. Here we talk about instead of subconscious, we call it interconsciousness. And why this is important, like really important, is because sub indicates that this kind of consciousness is below conscious awareness. It's not below, it's beside. The artist, the musician, the person playing jazz, the person who is doing an abstract painting, the person who's sculpting out of clay but doesn't know what they're going to sculpt yet. They are engaging with interconsciousness. It's not below, it's beside. Unconscious is even further down than that. I'm not saying there isn't a subconscious, but creatives know the real truth, which is it's right here all the time. And so when you engage with process like what we do here at Musea, you go into interconsciousness, and the visual, which can be really sweet to consider. Let me just do a little illustration of it. This is a little being. Imagine that interconsciousness is like this. And there are symbols and ideas and language and stories and memories. And when you open your heart to receive this, you connect with right brain and left brain. And then you use your hands to draw. And then what happens is firing and wiring begins. It is hard to gaslight someone who is engaging with this kind of consciousness because you have more than one balance besides a mental construct. Is that true or false? Does that feel good or not? So when you ask if something's true or you ask for insight while you're engaged in this happening, what happens is astonishing. The insight, and I would say access even to genius that becomes available, surprises me every time. I've literally been doing this for 30 years. Metacognitive drawing is literally what I do to access my own information. It is when my mother was passing, it is, I would get, that feeling of like absolute terror of losing your mother, and I would feel like I can't go see her. I'm just losing myself. I can't be unregulated. And I would say, let me try it again. Let me pick up my pen and draw and write. And I would start to regulate my system, and then ideas would come to me. So imagine on the first day where I'm going to go see her, I know she's dying. My mom is my best friend in the whole world. She's the most beautiful, brilliant person I've ever met. I can't imagine my life outside of her matrix. Like, I'm freaking. You know what I'm talking about, right? Because you've had these losses yourself. And I pick up the pen and I start drawing, and I ask the question, how do I be with this impossible terror that I feel in my body? Because it's not rational, right? It's rising up in my body. I can't control it. If you've ever tried to control grief or terror, like it just doesn't work. You have to do something. So it'd start with that drawing. And I had this idea which changed everything that would not have come to me through thinking. And so what I did was I listened to the narrative, which is, I'm losing my mother, I'm losing my mother, I'm losing my mother. It's a loop, right? And I heard, I'm finding my mother, I'm finding my mother, I'm finding my mother. And so I'd bring that energy to the time. And I would photograph beautiful altars around her home. And we would read poetry. And we actually designed a whole product line in her last days together because she was a designer. We did all these finding my mother things. We had a Zoom with our family and my mom read poetry, right? We had an amazing time. I wouldn't have thought of it. And so I'm sharing with you metacognitive drawing because I want you to be able to do it for the rest of your life and anytime you choose, and do not underestimate it. It is the most powerful tool for manifesting that I could possibly imagine with chosen consciousness, not some, sideways idea of what you think you need, but actually what your body and your heart and your brain are showing you in any given moment of what is actually needed. So if this is all that you got from this time, this is huge. Don't underestimate it. Give it to your children. Bring it to work. And it is all about how the brain works. And induces flow state. When we work with a big painting, then it's even more so, but we can definitely do it with drawing. So what we're doing next is we're going to do a drawing that's going to allow you to choose your focus. So I asked you to begin thinking about something you wanted to achieve in our time together a couple of minutes ago. it's been stirring. You've been wondering, what can I work on? I'm gonna invite you to just let that go now. And what you can do is you can back up letting it go with a hand movement, literally like pick up a pen or something and just say, I'm letting go of that idea, and do something physical in the space. And imagine that that pen or whatever it is that you're dropping is actually releasing that energy, because it is, because you are energy holding pen, giving inquiry, and then universe responds in matter by the pen falling with gravity. That actually changes the energy. I'm gonna pick the pen back up, but I'm in a new space. So I'm gonna let go of what vision I was gonna work on. You have let go of the vision you're gonna work on. Now we're gonna draw to discover. So draw to discover. So watch me first, and then we're gonna put on a song by Wah, W-A-H. I think it's with an exclamation point. We wanna honor them, and we also wanna honor the musicians we're sponsoring for the year at Musea, Copper Women, which was the song that we started with, and then we'll have more music by them. So once I do this demo, we're gonna put on the music, and you're gonna do your own drawing. Ready? So here's how it works. I'm gonna take a breath. I'm gonna start with a question mark in the middle. I'm not gonna lift the pen. And as I make that question mark, I say to myself, what is the vision I'm working with today? And then I breathe, and I allow myself to just move the pen without any hope of any form of outcome. I'm just breathing as I move the pen. Energy is being released from inside my body, and it's moving out to the pen. My brain is firing and wiring. My heart is holding the inquiry, and I'm watching my hand move the pen on the board. When you watch your hand move the pen on the board and you listen for information, you turn on what's called the observer effect. And the observer effect is something that they've been studying in the universe for quite some time, which is that you can never see what something's doing when you look at it because it changes what it's doing. That's true at the level of the electron. Like, you can never see what an electron is doing. As soon as you look at it, it does something else. That's a witness-witness universe. So when you watch your hand move, you turn on your observer, your mind is listening, brain is firing, wiring, heart is holding in ponderance, and then flow state can happen, even if it's for 30 seconds. And at the end of our time, when the music stops, you're going to ask yourself a question: what is it that I'm working with today? And that's it. Ready? Okay. Let's begin with the music, and you begin to draw, slowly watching the pen.
I've decided to be glad. I've decided to be grateful for all I ever had. I've decided to let go of all this pain tonight. I've decided to let go of all these demons inside. I know I am blessed. I know all I ever wanted was this. I know I don't need more. I've got what I came for. I've decided to be open to that little voice inside, telling me I'm beautiful. It's okay to be alive. I've decided to be kinder to myself when I feel sad. I've decided to be grateful for all I ever had. I know I am blessed.
All right, dear one. So you're lifting up the pen, and you're asking for what is the one thing that you're bringing through in our time together. One thing, and just write it down. Try not to control what you write and just see what shows up. Go ahead and pause and take a breath and maybe even stretch and stand up. Big work is being done. If you tune in, you could probably feel a chemistry shift. You may have even experienced just a couple seconds of flow state where something could come through. And it's not uncommon for me to laugh a little bit when it comes through because I couldn't make it up. And I'm just pretty amazed by what arose for me, and I'm going to share it with you. But what I really encourage you to do is not just stick with it for today, but actually like for 7 days from today to actually stay with what the information was. And this is extremely important for rewiring the brain and reestablishing self-trust so that you can have access to interconsciousness. We don't trust ourselves. And we've gaslighted ourselves by trying to create something in our life and making an affirmation of something unreachable. What we need is affirmations that are possible. And so I could say to myself, let me work this for 7 days. And the affirmation is, I'm going to work this for 7 days and I'm going to pay attention. I'm going to see what happens. Not, this is what is so. When you make decrees and demands that are not aligned with the frequency that your body and mind and heart are generating, your brain does not believe you. And I know that so many experts out in the field are saying your brain believes the imagined as though it were real, but they've done studies and it believes some of it. But the brain isn't who's making all the decisions. It's actually the body with the brain. And the body, my body, does not imagine a field of wildflowers when I'm only thinking it in my brain and experience it as if it was real because of my senses. So we've disconnected the body and majority of senses and given this assignment to the brain that the brain can imagine it and the body experiences it as real. My body doesn't. If I don't smell wildflowers, even imagining smelling them, even if I could get a little bit of a Cosmo or a little bit of a pink lady just through imagining it, I'm not going to get the full experience. So when we make a leap from where our current condition is, or current challenge, into it's already done, we break trust with ourselves. We need to take time to reestablish trust because the number of times you affirmed something that you really needed and it didn't happen is in the tens of thousands. And so there's some repair that needs to be done. And that's why we're working with things that are doable. And what's doable is I could work with this idea for 7 days. So I am in a situation in my personal life right now where I feel like my heart is breaking. And I'm thinking about when I first heard that idea, and I'm thinking about my mom, Karen, saying, you could actually die from a broken heart. And that stuck with me as a little kid. And I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to die? Like my heart feels like it's breaking. And I'm playing with the idea that that doesn't have to be the case. And so the message that came is big love, not brokenhearted, felt as truth. Big love, not brokenhearted, felt as truth. Now, I did not make that up. That came from my interconsciousness. And now I can work that. I can really work that. And as soon as I wrote it, I laughed a little bit and I was like, okay. And then this is what I'm working. That's a state change. So I move from, am I going to have my heart broken, and the physical feeling of that, to big love, not broken, felt as truth. And then I get to play with, what is the truth of that? So it actually gives me a probe, like an entry point to literally work. And when you're working with manifestation, especially combined with meditation, you are working something over. You are being with it, and you're looking at all sides of it. You're not just fixated on one part, which is like what appears to be happening in your life. You're actually like, wow, what else about this could I discover? What else is here that I wasn't noticing before? And this is a version of my supreme interconnected intelligence that was only available after moving the pen. So we're going to now take a moment for you to refine your vision and write a new sentence. So if you have a new piece of paper, and if you want to take a photo of this and you feel called, you can share it. We have our Red Thread Cafe Classroom, which is on Facebook. And then we have the iMusea app, where our community of leaders, healers, and creative gather. The main thread is not private, but the groups that you come in when you join us for education are. So don't share anything that feels too private, is what I'm saying. So you're going to take your sentence and you're going to shape it into an affirmation and potentially even a commitment. So I might say something like, for the next 7 days, I'm going to practice feeling big love as truth in my body. So whatever feels true for you. So let's take just a moment of quiet as you make your affirmation that you believe is possible. Take another big, beautiful breath, and I invite you to just say it out loud. And it's best when you're working with affirmations that are embodied to say them out loud and also to stand up and to feel them. So this is we're doing creative process, we're listening, we're receiving language, we're refining language, and then we're embodying the language and embodying the sensation. So all of these things are creating a shift in frequency, raising up the vibration to a new field condition, which allows you to come up with different solutions. Because manifestation is not just pulling or yanking something from the universe that doesn't belong to you. That's extraction. Manifestation, when done with authenticity and integrity, is the arising of conscious co-creative ideas within your own frame of awareness that you then practice to discover more. That is not extractive. That's you working on your critical thinking, working on what your body wants to reveal to you, and what we say around here is what's ready to be revealed. And when you do metacognitive drawing, your interconsciousness can show you what's ready to be revealed, but it sounds different than what you would come up with mentally, which you would normally be drawing from the past, because the brain, as a prediction place, references the past to create the future. It's trying to protect you, but that's one of the reasons why you keep creating things in the future that are in the past, because you keep looking through that same framework. You need to have a new framework that you're seeing through so that the lenses of the past experience inform you, but do not prevent you from clearly seeing something fresh, something emergent, something that has right brain and left brain and heart and hands all included with it. So if you're going to embody the phrase, so I may stand and extend my arms. I often rock back on my feet just to call in the physical body, kind of rocking my hips a little bit and breathing. And then I will say, for 7 days, I will engage with big love as my truth. And again, for 7 days, I will engage with big love as my truth. For 7 days, I will engage with big love as my truth. And then I just notice how I feel in my body, and I notice where in my body I feel it. I feel it in my throat, I feel it in my hands, I feel it in my vulva, and the back of my knees. So I'm just like, where am I feeling it? Where's the chemistry moving? And I embody this potential. Okay. So you're going to do this now, standing up 3 times, saying it out loud. And it's okay if you feel a little bit goofy. That's all part of the process of taking a risk. So it's your turn. Thank you. I love it when we do that process, and I feel like I can hear your voices affirming close to 500 people saying what they're creating for themselves that they just invented out of thin air. Now, from that space of having spoken, which is what we do in the culture of creating circles. Once you have spoken in a circle, you say, I have spoken. And sometimes we say our name or our spiritual name. So my spiritual name is Laughing Cloud. It's also my cosmic cowgirl handle. So I say, I am Laughing Cloud. I have spoken. And then sometimes I say, have you heard me? And then the people in the group would say, I have heard you. So what I want to say to you is, even though I didn't hear you like I'm in the room with you, I want to say, I have heard you. And to back up this reality of hearing you. And part of the miracle of this work is actually something that Jonathan McLeod taught me. And he just walked into the room. Jonathan taught me, we were at a Wisdom 2.0 conference, and we were having people write their intentions for the world and put them on this big, beautiful tree. And what he was saying to people, I was listening, and he was saying, you had the thought, you wrote it down, you read it out loud, and now you're looking at it. Had the thought, wrote it down, saw it, right? And then other people are seeing it. So what we're doing is we're multiplying the potential of the field condition of something becoming so. So those are all steps of a manifestation journey, right? Because you're affirming it across all these levels. And part of what the writing, painting, drawing part of manifestation is, if your mind thinks it, your body creates it with your hand, your eyes perceive it, your voice speaks it, your brain perceives it as more so than it was before. So these are all field conditions which are amplifying the potential, which creates a state change in your body and in your brain, which has it be more believable for you and more trust is established. So a huge part of what's missing in the manifestation teachings is how you witness and hear and taste and smell and feel and perceive what you're creating. But it's a lot more than just writing it down. You have to actually say to yourself, I'm reading this and affirming this. I'm seeing this and believing this. I'm sending the signal to my body. And this is intentional creativity, which is to consciously choose to engage with the creative process. That quality of attention and intention shifts things. In studies on DNA, when they wanted to demonstrate that DNA is able to adapt and change even at a small level, they worked with sending love to DNA, and then they worked with sending intentions to DNA, and those did not register a change. Love and intention actually registered the change, right? So that's what we're doing. We're building the field condition to register change so that your eyes, hands, brain, body, entire being have more believability. Like, I am now living in the big love space that came through my interconsciousness. It's just so now, and then I continue to work with it. So now what becomes available when you've embodied this vision that's coming through you is you ask for insight and ideas about how to make that more so. How can I make it more so to bring this vision closer to reality? And for those of us who worked with sort of a consciousness shift, like moving from brokenhearted to big love space, like it's already happened for me. I could move on to something else. I'm already in it. So depending on what you chose, you may have already received something. You may want to just conjure something else new. But what we're doing is we're asking for the practice. So this is also the part that's often missing in some of the manifestation teachings over the past 50 years is, how do you, as the co-creative, actually do something to further the happening? You don't just say it and think it and then let it go. You actually have to do something about it, right? You want to make it more real for yourself. There's like some real physical, tangible potentials that need to come into being in order for it to actually be practiced. So we literally ask for ideas. And so now I'm going to ask you to pick up 2 pens. Getting wild in here. 2 pens, y'all. You should see us with 3 paintbrushes. All right, so I will demonstrate for you. And we are again starting with the inquiry, only this one's, I'm defining this one. The inquiry is, what are the ideas for how I can bring this vision to life? That's the question. Show me some ideas. Show me some insights. Okay? I'll demo, then you're going to follow. I'm going to put the pens down. I'm going to say the message. Show me the insights. And then I just start moving the pen a little bit more quickly than from before. Breathing. Usually they mirror each other, sometimes not. And then cross over. Cross over the center line of the body and the center line of the page. When you're ready, lift, and then start to jot down the ideas that came to you and do not question what comes. So now we're going to put the Wah One song on. You're going to do this process and then you're going to write down the ideas that come to you. What is going to make it possible for your vision to come into reality now or sometime in the next 7 days?
don't scare you. You're not dreaming big enough. When you open the path, you open yourself. A higher vibration will arise. Listen for the message, look for the signs. Picking up on the higher vibration. Stepping into life for the revelation. Picking up on the higher vibration. Stepping into life for the revelation. Healing the people one by one. Standing under them so that they feel strong. Feels like love. Feels like love. Healing the people one by one. Standing under them so that they feel strong. Feels like love. Feels like love. Take the time to find your inner reality. Open your heart to all you can see. Just the love. Hold the hands that are holding you. Everything is made for you. Everything is made for you. Picking up on the higher vibration. Stepping into life for the revelation. Picking up on the higher vibration. Stepping into life for the revelation. No other way to live but to go into love. Time is telling, some are willing to rise above. I can't live with the dread any longer. I can't live like the dead and get
Right, so
stronger.
just wrapping that up. And now here's where the discipline comes in. I call it an ecstatic discipline, which is where you actually take the ideas that came to you. I can't say enough how important it is to trust what comes through in these spaces of interconsciousness and actually do them. If you do not receive and believe what comes through, not that you might not proof it or question or refine, but the thread of it is real, because we're actually in a ritual right now, not just a class. The thread of what happens is very real. And if you do not, this is the fear part, if you do not follow up on the insight that came, more will not be given. Because you haven't shown yourself to be ready, not from some abstract divinity who's going to dispense whether or not you get good ideas. It's actually just your own consciousness. If you don't use what is being given and compost it and grow new things, more won't come, because it actually starts to clog the channel, because you've been given all this insight and you're either going to do it or you're not. So the insight I got for how do I live out big love for the next 7 days, I'm going to work my affirmation. I'm going to meditate on it. I'm going to practice forgiveness so that I'm not making any blocks to the love. I'm going to acknowledge when progress is being made, and I'm going to include all of it in ritual. So I'll probably build a little altar or do some creativity or something to back it up. And then I work this for that time. Now, when you work it for a time, part of what happens is that you're literally listening and opening to and watching for those synchronicities and those symbols and those signs and those relationships. And you're looking for what's going to come to you about this. So many times when we do this in our community, you actually get the thing you were looking for within the first hour, and then something else comes, and then usually it's like the third thing down that you really wanted, right? We first think we want to pay off the car, get the job, handle our rent, find our lover. We first are like, those are like the external wants, right? Even though they're very real. But underneath that, there's something else, which is, wanting to feel nourished, wanting to feel rested, wanting to feel secure. And the interesting part about manifestation is if you are able to create experiences for yourself in the actual underlying need, rest, nurturing, care, the capacity for you to meet the real world needs is much better because you're hooked up with your own insight and with your own consciousness, and you're acting as a co-creator, and your chemistry is shifting your frequency so that you can actually see what's possible around you. Like does not always attract like, because there's also polarity. There are opposites. And things like hot and cold aren't even actually opposites, inside, outsides. They're all part of a spectrum. So manifestation is more like a spectrum. It's not like a fixed thing. And you're showing up inside of that spectrum of possibility. And here's the ultimate teaching for our time together today. And it's what we're going to be working in our year-long course, Abracadabra, every single day and every single week and every single month and every single moon. We're going to be working the ideas I've shared with you today in all the areas of our life: health, wealth, relationships, spirituality, identity. Ready for the big mic drop for today? It is this. Manifestation without reciprocity is extraction. To ask for what you want without considering the impacts on you and others and the planet is extractive behavior. We are being taught to be extractive. And for those of you in the United States, during the Reagan administration, we changed from being citizens to being called consumers. It's all a very conscious plan of the big power structures to have us consume and be consumers and need more and act more and have literal duplicates of things in our lives. We are excessive and extractive beings at this time. And even choosing to move into simplicity, like my poorest friends are like, only rich people talk about simplicity. It is not simple at all to be poor. Like the ways that we are being forced to navigate our lives right now, actually some of the most challenged economic places are still in the active consumption of what it is that we are being sought, what we're being taught that we need, and therefore asking for and seeking that we don't actually need. And so the riddle is for us to really do this work of repair and opening to what's possible. You have to measure the thing that you're manifesting in terms of reciprocity. And that is not how we've been being taught to get. We're taught to dog eat dog, get up, stand on this, climb this ladder. We're taught to just go and to get and to have. And if you don't do it, someone else is going to take it, so you may as well go. We're taught to compete. We are in a culture where we're actually taught this behavior set, which is toxic for humans and for the planet. But we're not actually taught to think about the reality of reciprocity. I'm not going to bring it to you today from a spiritual framework. I'm going to bring it to you today from an energetic quantum framework. And I'm going to paint that in order for that to be made possible. Thank you, Ed. How's that? Looks all right? Okay. All right. I know I didn't tell you this is a painting class, but those of you who are painters in our community, you can return to your canvas later to amplify these ideas. And those of you joining us for Abracadabra are going to work with a much bigger canvas than this. So I'm going to give this a spray. So don't go grab your canvas, just watch for the moment. If we're navigating reciprocity, what we're dealing with is energy moving. And as I move this brush and I see these colors and I'm asking myself, for the vision I'm asking for, what do I actually need to give? What do I need to show up for? And then I add another layer. And I'm just breathing and moving my brush, and I'm watching my brush, and I'm watching the color. How do I need to show up? What do I need to give or give up in order to engage with the feeling of love, of the big love place? I'm not doing a big heart. I'm not doing something that is a literal symbol. I'm moving energy. And here's what's amazing is that energy equals MC squared. Okay? So what that means is that the energy that you are working with when you have a thought about what you want to create is crossing the veil and coming into form. If you do not have energy that is appropriate to the conditions of earth and others, and you're not imagining what's going to happen when it comes into form, you're ultimately being extractive. Because everything that comes into form must return to energy. Again, it has to, or we're actually hurting the environment. Things that get made that cannot decompose in time are extractive. We're actually not able to move many things back and forth across the energy sign. Water, when it becomes too toxic and can't be returned again into clear water, it's extractive. So you are a co-creator with the universe, and you are making stuff, and you are having impact. The most significant law of the entire universe is that everything is interconnected. And when we do not act like it is, then we're actually taking away from. You are interconnected with everything that there is, period. When you don't act like it, you are extractive. And when you manifest from an extractive behavior set, you're going to call things to yourself that are not in alignment with who you are. And when people do that, it ends up having wealth held by the few. It ends up having coercive, oppressive behavior sets. It's conquest culture, it's colonization, like all that stuff is the manifestation of extractive behavior exacted on human beings and plants and animals. We don't want to be like that. So when you actually consider the impacts of what it is that you're requesting, so I'm requesting big love, and I'm going to work my practice and my meditation in order for that to take place. If I'm not willing to give something of my time, of my resources, of my heart, if I'm not willing to put in for that, I don't actually deserve to receive that. Not because it's a punishment, but because I'm not in alignment with it. I'm not actually in frequency with it. And so it's harder for it to come to me. And I could go ahead and try to reach it and take it, which is what capitalism does, is it reach out and it takes it, whether that belongs to you or not. And then there's not enough. We go and we take from environments where it's not going to be able to be regenerative. And then we wonder why we are where we are. Our community in general doesn't wonder where we are because we're kind of hip to this, what's happening. But even when you're requesting things like your soulmate or an illness to leave or a house that doesn't have mold or your pet to heal, even at like the most basic things that you're working with, if you do not consider what the energy and matter relationship ultimately is, then the chance of you receiving it is one, way less. And the chance of you receiving what you actually need is not aligned. And you're actually taking from. And usually there is a balancing out. So when I have been extractive in a behavior set and compromised, like one time I created a book that I've self-published 7 books that I've manifested. One book, I got talked into having it printed in mass production in a country that I did not want to engage with that structure. I went ahead and did it so we could have a lower price for that book. However it ended up happening, I don't even know how to explain it, but the profit from that book did not manifest. Where the other books that I created as homespun as I could, that are print on demand so far. My first books were actually created by hand in a place I could actually visit by people I knew by name. Those ones were profitable. My first book, Color of Woman, got into production when I was 25 years old. It's still in production today. I've sold close to 15,000 copies without having a traditional publisher. It was made by hand. I used to paint the covers by hand. And so I have a value system which says that in order for me to make something, I must consider what the impact is. And there's all kinds of things, right? Like I'm obviously working with paint and canvas and materials, which is tree and water and earth and air. And that's one of the great things about a year-long class too, is because we're just working on one canvas the whole time. So how we work with painting to bring in the image is one of the focuses of Abracadabra, which is where we're going to actually paint what it is we're calling into being. And the power of that painting and that flow state allows you to see and believe and perceive and experience in your body. So I'm going to go ahead and put some hearts, even though that's a little cliche right now, but they're a little abstract. And I am bringing in my big love place. And there's 3 hearts that are coming to me to put. And I'm just putting them there. And then I'm just going to bring some paint to the other parts of the painting as I just play and I just listen for any other instructions or any other energies. And then in a true intentional creativity practice, which intentional creativity is a practice, what I would do is I would commit to bringing my brush to this canvas every single day for 7 days. And this creates firing and rewiring. My eyes seeing, my brain perceiving allows for me to believe that this is not only possible, but is happening now. This is the practice of intentional creativity at the portal, which is the canvas. So we're gonna bring up a big old painting here for just a minute as we come into completion. Give me just a moment. Everybody, this is Fred and Anita. I didn't tell them they were going to be on camera today, but here they are. Here's part of our new local Musea team, the Miracle Manifest. They're here, humans who are here. So I wanted you to see an example of a big painting. So this is a painting that I created over 13 moons, just like we're doing in Abracadabra. And this was for a class called Red Madonna. And I was working the challenge I had with matriarchy and patriarchy, with the divine ma and the divine pa. So this is the pa and this is the ma. And then this is the feminine and this is the masculine. And in the middle is the heart and creation. And so I put them into a relationship of co-creation. And as I'm painting them, I'm working out in my consciousness my relationship to that story. So in our year-long classes and in our certifications, we often work on a painting of this magnitude, which I know can feel scary. There are reasons for working really large like this. But as I'm doing it, my consciousness is shifting. And as my consciousness shifts, new ideas come. And so I was sort of in a battle between matriarchy and patriarchy till the end of this painting, and then it resolved itself. I actually came up with a new understanding of my relationship with the divine and how it works and the multifaceted feminine. And I could never have gotten there just through thinking. And I had already tried to get there through prayer. And so it was actually the working of the concept, making it real in a painting, which allowed my heart and brain and hands to rewire the circuitry to make it possible. So I've given you lots of things to work with that you can play with over this next 7 days. For those of you who are joining us for Abracadabra, this is an introduction. For those of you who haven't joined us yet, you can go to musea.org. It's right there. We would love to welcome you. This class is only for women, and we're going to be working these ideas over and over in all different kinds of ways. And for those of you who are not continuing with us in any way, just know that there's always things that we can do to share with you, because when I'm teaching in a year-long class, I'm sharing the concepts just like in a class like this, Manifestation Reimagined. So the heart of the teaching today is you are a co-creator. You can be accountable to creating impossibility. Engaging with your creativity helps to amplify the potentials of receiving. You are not responsible for all of the harm. You can release some of the shame and blame that you carry that actually clogs the channel. And ultimately, when you are manifesting what you are called to manifest, you are now going to consider reciprocity. It's giving and receiving. It's give and take. It's a natural flow. It's energy equals matter at the speed of light. Matter at the speed of light equals energy. If we do not have that equation clear, then we will not be consistent with the most important law of the universe, which is that every single thing is interconnected. And when humans do not act like that is so, we break things. We extract. We do not consider the consequences. We take more than we need. So I'm really talking about sacred reciprocity, but it's a form of accountability. It's a form of accountability to be a co-creator and to not be someone who's drawing off of creation and is sort of acting like someone who's taking or parasitic in nature. Instead, we're asking, how can we make a contribution? How can we amplify this beautiful relationship? How can we be in relationship with nature? If you are manifesting and you are not considering the way that the nature around you actually works, then what you're essentially doing is saying, I just want the fruit. I don't want to know about the tree. I'm not going to care for the water. I don't even know about the trunk. Just give me the fruit. And we know that that does not work right now. We know that where we are is breaking down, because that's the behavior that people have been exhibiting regarding all things food and water and shelter. So the consideration of where things come from and how things get created was built into me from a child. And so I'm not surprised that I'm teaching you Manifestation Reimagined. Imagine that I'm 8 years old and I'm on the farm. I have 2 moms and an aunt, and they want me to know where food comes from. Imagine that I had to learn how to grow food and that I had to get up in the dark and milk goats. But imagine that I also had to be part of slaughtering animals that we would then later eat, because they wanted me to know where that food came from for the rest of my life. Of course, when I look back, I'm like, wow, that was some crazy stuff right there to go through, because I can see myself right now running around the yard with the chicken. It was a harrowing experience for me. But we were also extremely, extremely poor. It was literally day by day, sometimes minute by minute. I never actually ended up missing a meal, but there were so many tight moments where it was like, we don't know what we're gonna do here. That moment of my life, understanding how everything was interconnected, understanding what that chicken represented, allowed me to engage with creation where I'm not separate from it. It allowed me to understand how all things work together and how there's also solutions everywhere. Later that week, my cousin Bridget and I stepped on a nest like a hornet's nest inside of the ground. And these bees, these hornets, maybe they were yellow jackets, I can't remember, like literally swarmed and stung us all over our whole body. I'll never forget the feeling I had of what that stinging was like. And we went to a pond about a mile away. We got in the pond and we were covered in mud. And every single sting went away. All of the things we need from creation have already been given. Every problem and every solution are all present all the time. Every pain and every possibility, they're all here all the time. Nature has provided solutions and ways of working. The theory of relativity is how things are structured. The natural law of the universe is that everything is interconnected. When we do not behave consistent with that, we create misalignment. And misalignment prevents flow, prevents wellness, creates stagnation, prevents money from flowing easily to you. There are so many things that could be coming to you and through you, but you are yourself not in alignment. I'm not saying I am all the time. In some areas I totally am, and in other areas I'm totally not. That's why we have to work on all the areas. So I call it manifestation attunement, where you refine each area of your life so that you are no longer extractive and you're actually in a sacred relationship with creation itself. And that there's this prayer, which is, I long to be in sacred reciprocity with the natural order of the universe. Show me how to be a good steward of myself and the impacts I create in the world. Let me know what it feels like to be in an interconnected matrice. Show me how to stop being one who takes and be one who gives and takes in a natural, orderly, timely relationship with creation, and who's willing to show up for my practice and for my process, who's willing to do the work. You can make your prayer your way, you can make your painting your way, you can do everything your way, because the actual solutions that you're looking for to the things you're creating in your life are all within you. And the processes and practices we're sharing with you are simply ways for you to get to it. So there's not like a 1 through 10 Shiloh's manifestation formula that's going to work for you. You have to discover it for yourself. But what is workable is these practices and processes that allow you to arrive at your own solutions for creating the world around you with your word to yourself. If your word to yourself is in misalignment, then your capacity to create the world around you in alignment is hindered. So may we all open up to sacred reciprocity, the natural flow state that's available to us. May we be self-expressed to the highest potential each one of us can. And may each of the visions brought forward today that's in true alignment, that's right for each person to receive, may it come to be. And may each one of us in our spiritual practice and tradition continue to be in alignment with the divine love that is here all the time. May we feel the embrace of the sacred and feel the joy of interconnected community that's around us. I just want to thank you so much for spending this time with us today. I truly pray that your aligned visions reveal themselves to you. And I'm planning to be with you in circle and in ceremony for the next couple 100 years. So I will see you in the next circle. Much, much love to each one of you. We're going to complete with the Heart Full of Flowers song as we just allow ourselves to rest from this moment and move into the rest of our lives. It's an honor.
Tonight we light 2,000,000 candles and watch them float down the river's channel. Insignificant, not a single flame, each tiny spark awakening. I will come with my heart full of flowers, with a lamp to relight your darkest hour.